we want to defend the 49ers coaching staff a bit because that was an embarrassment that happened yesterday. It was an embarrassing loss for the entire franchise, but I think it's fair to give a little bit of defense to the two coaches, Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh. Why don't you start, Vish?
Yeah, I want to start off with the guy I've been particularly hard on. Unfortunately, I haven't had a platform to be hard on him, so people don't know, but I've not been a Robert Saleh guy throughout his tenure as the 49ers defensive coordinator. When he first came, my thing always was, and it was a little constant, that, hey, you run the Seattle scheme, but you don't do much else. What makes you a better defensive coordinator than the 6 other guys who run the Seattle scheme? And even last year when people were calling him the best defensive coordinator in football, yeah, he had a couple more blitzes. Yeah, Grant. He had a couple more blitzes on third down, and they were running more quarters coverage, and they were doing a little bit more. So there was definitely credit to him. He was a good defensive coordinator.
Some growth.
But I asked the question, what's the difference between him and I think his name is Todd Wash, who was the defensive coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2017, whose base defense was basically the Seattle scheme. Similar talent. I think Jacksonville had more talent, to be honest, but they also had a worse offense, so their defense was put in a lot worse positions. And I really thought that it was a conversation. Well, fast forward to 2020, I was wrong. Robert Saleh is very good at what he does. I thought week 1, I was a little critical of him. I thought week 1 was a little rough, but I think since then he's done a phenomenal job. I do not put yesterday on him. There was stuff that we talked about the week, I think last week. It sucks talking about previewing a game on Monday because a lot changes during the week.
True.
But we did talk about it, and we said, look, Russell Wilson is the best quarterback in the NFL. DK Metcalf is a super freak. You can do a lot of things on defense, and they might still beat you. And that's what happened yesterday. He did adjust. From my TV eye, it looked like Marcel Harris was shaded over DK Metcalf for a lot of that game. DK Metcalf had that monster first quarter, and he did make that adjustment. But the problem is Marcel Harris was literally 10 yards from the ball. They throw an 8-yard slant to Metcalf. Harris hits him as hard as he can, and Harris is injured. DK Metcalf is just a freak. And then they throw comebacks where you don't really have safety help on the comeback. And Russell Wilson's timing and accuracy is too good. And Metcalf is such a big body. Like, Mosley has no chance of defending it. Sometimes you just get beat by better players. That's not a coaching issue. That's not a player's issue. It's just that Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf are that good, and that's what happened yesterday.
Yeah, he's going up against the number 1 offense in the league, the number 1 quarterback in the league. He's missing most of his starters. I liked the blitzes he had early on. The blitzes on second down were creative. They worked, but they just had no one who could cover DK Metcalf at all. Right. And I don't put that on him.
Let's talk about the things we've been critical of him in the past.
Yep.
Design quarterback runs. Did a phenomenal job on it.
He did.
They did an excellent job. One of the more underrated points of the game was they kept Russell Wilson in the pocket and made him play quarterback the whole game. Yep. He did not make off-schedule plays that much yesterday.
Nope.
There's going to be a couple with Russell Wilson every game because he's that good. But they limited the off-schedule plays. They did a phenomenal job doing that, and they made him throw on time and on schedule. The problem is that he was too good throwing on time and on schedule, and DK Metcalf was that good making plays on time and on schedule.
I got something I want to say real quick. I think a lot of the fan base is still very hard on Robert Saleh, partially because of Dante Whitner. Dante Whitner goes on, he does the post-game show with NBC, and he's terrific. I mean, he has a lot to say, and he's very substantive, and he doesn't hold back. And every time the Niners lose, he goes in on Robert Saleh, and it's very specific. He says, he didn't adjust here. He should have called these coverages instead. And I think the Niner fans are informed by his analysis, and I disagree with it. From what I heard him say last night is that he should have called two-man coverage, so 2 deep, man underneath, and quarters against the Seahawks. That's suicide. You can't play 2 deep man coverage against Russell Wilson. He'll just run for 20 yards of play. So I respect Dante Whitner's acumen, but he's wrong about that. He played for Vic Fangio. He knows how Vic Fangio typically would call coverages in games, and that's what he's going to. And he thinks, well, Fangio is better than Robert Saleh. But Fangio didn't call 2-man against Russell Wilson. It's suicide.
And I know people credited Vance Joseph for shutting down the Seattle offense, but if you go back and look at that game, It's not even that the blitzes were good or anything. They singled DK Metcalf with Patrick Peterson. And I think the bigger problem in that game, and this is, I think, one of my favorite analysts, Chris Sims, he brought it up. He said Russ just didn't throw him the football. If he's one-on-one with Patrick Peterson, you just got to take shots because he's DK Metcalf. And if they took those shots with him being one-on-one, maybe Vance Joseph doesn't look as good that Monday, because yesterday, Robert Saleh started off that game trying similar things to what Arizona did to hurt him, and he had
it worked.
And Russell Wilson said, if you have one guy on DK Metcalf, he's getting the ball. It was a concerted effort to get the ball to DK Metcalf, and he is a super freak. He is just a freak.
Yeah, I don't blame Robert Saleh. I mean, the Seahawks showed DK Metcalf last year. The Cardinals brought in DeAndre Hopkins, and the Niners saw that, and they were like, we're good. We're good. We're not going to bring in any corners. I bet you they do next year. What do you think, Vish? Think they might?
Yeah, I think there is a little complexity to that. It's not exactly fair because CJ Henderson and Jeff Okudah were both picked, and AJ Terrell, who's a good player, who I think has an upside in the NFL, has struggled a little bit in Atlanta to start off.
What about Diggs? I know he's on the worst defense in the league.
Yeah, and
Dallas.
Diggs had a nice game yesterday, but
yeah,
again, how much can you expect? Do you expect Diggs to walk in and be better than Emmanuel Mosley, who's a pretty solid football player? That's the question they probably ask themselves, and I don't know if you can expect that. But
I think the issue is not necessarily talent, but physical matchup. They don't have anyone big enough. I mean, Emmanuel Mosley was actually in good position on DK Metcalf most of the game, and it didn't matter.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. That's
you see what I'm saying? That's the issue. The matchup.
Is anybody big enough to match up with DK Metcalf? He's a matchup nightmare. Is the glare really bad right now?
It's really bad right now.
Yeah. I don't know what the heck's going on. My blinds are all the way closed.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Maybe turn a little bit.
Dude, I don't want people to miss out.
No, you look good. I don't know what's going on. Here, why don't we drop you out and come back in? Here, come back in. Come back in.
Okay.
All right, we have a little intermission real quick while we wait for Vish. He's doing great. But what Vish needs is a professional light system like I have, because I look fantastic right now. I look so handsome and crisp. Crisp is the word I would use to describe the way I look right now and how I feel. You got to have the light source in front of you. If it's behind you, that's what's going to happen, man. Vish is figuring out, though. So when Vish comes back, we're going to talk about I'm going to grill him on Kyle Shanahan, because he's giving Kyle Shanahan every oh, here he goes. Okay. That's better.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah. All right. So we've defended Robert Saleh. He's doing the best he can. He was going up again. He had an impossible task. And remember, Vance Joseph gave up like 600 yards and 34 points to the Seahawks. So no one shuts them down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about Kyle, though, because you're going to have some defense of him, and it's legit. But then I'm going to push back a little bit, as you like to say, and let's discuss it.
Yeah, Kyle had maybe, I think, the first third down was probably the only thing that I really had an issue with. And it's just a call that didn't work. I don't like doing Monday morning quarterback, or armchair quarterback, as my buddy Mike McGlinchey likes to say, on offensive play calling, only because I think there is a thought process and a situation that goes in, and a detail that goes in to why Kyle Shanahan makes such calls. Mm-hmm. And I think that oftentimes when they don't work, it's the easiest thing to sit back and say, well, it didn't work, you should have called something else. I think the bigger reason is you have to go into why it didn't work, and maybe the science and the thinking behind the call, which Kyle owned up to after the game, was the big problem. But I don't think this was a botched coaching kind of thing in general.
No, I'm with you. I'm just not going to let him off entirely. Let me say real quick, and then you can respond to that, because this is how I feel about Kyle. As opposed to Robert Saleh, who's going against the number one offense, he's going against the last ranked defense. And yes, Jimmy Garoppolo was a big time limitation. But as we talk about Chris Kosarik. It's like, we're holding you to the highest standard because you're the best and you get paid like it. Kyle, you're the best. You're not just some up and comer. You're getting paid, I think, $10 million a year. You're supposed to be master level. And the first half was awful. And then look at the third quarter. You go in at halftime, you see what the Seahawks are doing, you make whatever adjustments you make, you come out and you get -4 net yards and 0 first downs. To me, Shanahan's better than that, even with Jimmy Garoppolo. I know they don't have Deebo Samuel. -4 yards. I feel like that was not Shanahan at his best. He was at his best the previous 2 weeks, and maybe he has to be A+ Shanahan to win with Jimmy Garoppolo. But that was like, to me, C Shanahan. C. Not bad, not good. It's kind of,
I think there's something to that. I do think they need Deebo Samuel to run that type of an offense, and not having him really. I do think maybe he could have done a better job in terms of just getting his guys ready to play. There were too many mental errors early in that game because Seattle did not come ready to play. They looked like a team that had just suffered a heartbreaking overtime loss and was tired. And the Niners had an opportunity to go up 4-0. The way I thought Seattle showed up reminded me the way the Niners showed up after their first loss of the season last year to Seattle. And if you remember, they had the Arizona game next week, and they followed behind 14-0. And it was a real ugly game, but they pulled the Niners were able to pull the game out. Well, the Niners had the opportunity to start 14-0 against Seattle. They had a great stop first possession. It looked like offense was going to be able to move the ball. And then you had the Kittle kind of drop / miss throw. Ball's got to be more accurate, but George Kittle has also got to catch it. It wasn't exactly a drop, but it's both of it.
It was not a drop. It was not a drop. Vish.
No,
Vish.
Ball's got to be more accurate, but hey,
thank you.
George Kittle's also got to make that catch. He's good enough to make that catch. That's my point. He gets paid to make that kind of catch. But
Jimmy gets paid to make that throw. You got to make that's a terrible throw.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, there was that, and then there was the bad call on 3rd and 4, the call that just failed on 3rd and 4. And then there was the ugly Jimmy interception. But that game should have started 14-0. They came out. It seemed like they had the right kind of plan. The defense came to play, and instead it's 0-0. You have a turnover, and now Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf start cooking, and that basically ended the game. Also,
there's nothing specifically with Kyle where I'm like, hey, this one call here, you should have done this instead. I'm just like, really? I had higher expectations for you. I think you could have done better, even given all that you were up against. Because, dude, 32nd ranked defense, no Jamal Adams, no Shaquille Griffin. Come on, Kyle. You're better than that. That. That's all I'm saying.
And, hey, that defense, we talked about it on the phone. And my buddy Blake, who's going to come on in a little bit, we have a phrase that we like to say after Last Dance with the Michael Jordan meme when he talks about Clyde Drexler. Hey, how he took it personally. Bobby Wagner took it personally yesterday. I think he's been hearing the chirping that Fred Warner is the best linebacker in football. And I think he made a gigantic statement on who is the best linebacker in football yesterday. He dominated that game. I always go back to the Navarro Bowman game, right? The one against the Rams. Alden Smith has the pathetic DUI. Patrick Willis is out. I think Justin Smith was out. You're going against the Rams. Grant picked you to lose, and Fangio blitzes Navarro Bowman, and he dominates the game, and you win. That was Bobby Wagner yesterday.
Yep. I think Fred Warner, it was not really a Fred Warner game. He didn't have an impact, but he's not Navarro Bowman who's going to get you like 15 tackles for losses a season. I mean, he's a coverage linebacker, and this is a deep passing team. They kind of just avoided him. He wasn't really a factor.
Yeah.